Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to another Modernize or Die CFML News Edition. It's November 19th, special Thursday edition instead of our usual Tuesday. So thanks for joining me, Brad.
What's going on? Just hanging out here in this chair next to you.
Yep. Yeah, for those who didn't know, CF Summit was this week, and so our normal time clashed with a bunch of our regular live viewers, and so we thought we'd wait till after the conference and give you a bit of a conference update as well. So, surprise, surprise for those who were looking for a Tuesday one. And of course, that was the day I actually pre-scheduled it to be on Tuesday, because I'd forgotten the dates too, and so everybody probably had the reminder set up, and nope, sorry, fooled you. But we're here now, so that's all that matters, right?
We like to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. So, again, I'm Gavin Pickin, software consultant for Order Solutions, and you are Brad Wood, just in case you forgot.
Apparently, I'm also a software consultant for Order Solutions, according to our show notes.
Yep. And whatever title you make up on the day.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing, making up titles.
Okay, well, first we just want to thank Order Solutions, one of our sponsors. They make the show possible, and one way you can say thank you to them is you can look at the Into the Box LATAM. The conference is going to be on December 3rd and 4th online. English and Spanish content available, and it's only $7 to subscribe to that, so we'll tell you a little more in the conferences section.
So you're saying it's going to be in Spanglish?
Yes, possibly. Maybe some Spanish too. But we'll also have another way you can support Orders is to sign up to CFCasts.com. It's a site where we release free and paid videos every week. And so if you sign up, you can get all the free content. And if you subscribe, then you can get paid content as well. And a lot of great stuff coming there. We'll tell you a bit more about that later too. And the other way that we get support for this podcast is through our Patreon supporters. So we have 34 patrons now. That's like 58% of our funding for this podcast comes from you individuals out there spending your hard-earned money to thank us for this. So that really means a lot to us. And without you guys, we wouldn't be able to make this podcast happen.
Don't mind me. I'm just fiddling with my total real office that's behind me. Nothing to see.
Okay, well, so now we thank our sponsors, we can get into the news and events. And there's a pretty big event last week. Adobe ColdFusion 2021 was released.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say CF Summit. I'm like, that was this week, Gavin. Yeah, 2021. I keep wanting to say 2020. Apparently, I think some of the Adobe engineers in the sessions this week were actually saying 2020 just from the habit of it. But, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It's like a car company release. They released 2021 in the year 2020. But there was rumors that they were going to not be able to release it until 2021, so they changed the name, and then now it's still 2020.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's...
I thought maybe they just didn't want to associate with 2020 since everybody, was like, oh my gosh, 2020 is so bad. It's like, the unlucky number.
I think that is definitely part of it. But as it says on their blog post, the completely reimagined Adobe ColdFusion 2021 release offers a modular, secure, and containerized approach to building applications that can run across multiple cloud providers or on-premises. You can now switch between cloud service providers without having to rewrite your application. So, in a nutshell...
It's interesting that they include containerized in the description now, because Adobe's had official containers before, but I think they have more of a focus on them this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think when 2018 was released, they were working on them, but they didn't have the official images released at the time they released 2018. So this is the first time they've released at the same time. And they're a little more polished now, too, because when 2018 came out, there was a lot of issues, and they weren't sure how to use them. And Charlie's done a couple of great sessions in the past couple of years at CF Summit talking about the Docker images and how to use them and how to configure them. And, obviously a lot of things that we've been working on. Like our CFConfig and ways to make it easier to script.
Yeah, they're slowly catching up to the Orders CommandBox images.
Yeah, so... but
someone on Twitter was talking about how it was nice to be able to easily switch between versions of, ColdFusion and the Docker image. And I'm like, That sounds like the Ortus image is about like 3 years ago.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of great things in the 2021 release. Charlie did a session at CF Summit on the hidden gems and went through it. He's got a blog post that we'll share in the show notes here as well about some of that. And of course, there's 500, 600 pages of documentation on the release. So there's a lot of content out there.
A lot of documentation. The nice thing about Charlie's blog post is he references the giant PDF by page number.
Yep.
So if you're reading through Charlie's blog post, he'll say, pages 70 through 90 or whatever, and you can go find it in the PDF to get more information. So
it's like Cliff Notes, right? So Charlie's done a great job of summarizing that, finding all the good stuff, and then you can just look through his summary and then go like a table of contents and go find what you need. So it's really neat. So there's a lot of good stuff, and the conference highlighted a lot of that too. But yeah, they're definitely focusing more on containerizing. So they did a lot of work. They have their new package manager now. They have the CFPM, right, which is their package manager for loading different modules of ColdFusion. Yep. And so I know you did a little bit of work and released a blog post about how to use it with CommandBox. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I did. I answered the same questions like 50 times on Twitter and Slack, and so I finally just kind of like put it all in a blog post. I even saw people on the Facebook group for ColdFusion saying, oh, I'll wait till this comes out on CommandBox. I'm like, yeah, it's been on ForgeBox for like days now. All you have to do is use it. But yeah, if you're a CommandBox user and you want to play with 2021, it's out there on ForgeBox. It's been out there on ForgeBox. And so my blog post, I just talk about how, it uses the regular slug, so it's still CF Engine equals Adobe. And if you have a server that's just server start CF Engine equals Adobe and you didn't have a version, you will automatically and possibly unexpectedly get Adobe ColdFusion 2021 the next time you start that server. So if you intend to stay on 2018 or 2016, obviously you'll need to dial that in because the latest version is now 2021 for the Adobe slug. But you can play with 2021 right now, just server start CF Engine equals Adobe at 2021, and that's all out there. If you're using CFConfig, you will need to update it. It's just run the update -- system command. I had CFConfig looking or expecting the 2020 version, but then when it came out as 2021, CFConfig is like, I don't know what that version is. I can't import configuration into it. So the new update just says, yeah, it's fine. It's the same as this one. The other big thing you mentioned is CFPM. If you want to play with Adobe 2021, chances are your site won't work on it. If it's ColdBox, it absolutely won't work, but that's for more reason than one. But you can't even, get a ColdBox site to compile on just the base image. So I love the modular architecture that Adobe did. They're about 4 years behind Lucee now on that, but it's a fantastic change. It was when Lucee did it, and it is when they did it. But Lucee just kind of still ships with all the extensions, right? You actually kind of have to go out of your way to get Lucee Lite. The Adobe War is basically sort of the Adobe Lite version. It comes with like none of the modules installed. I think the administrator module might come, but other than that, there's not even debugging module, which actually really annoyed me. You can't even enable robust exception information on your error page until you go install the debugging module, which I think was a little silly, but that's another story. So you got to use the CFPM tool to install things like the feed plugin, which ColdBox has a CF feed tag in it, so it won't even compile unless you have the feed plugin installed. And so in the CommandBox 5.2 release that happened this week, I added a little helper for CFPM, because CFPM is basically like a shell script or a batch file, depending on your operating system, that's sort of buried deep in your server home, CFusion bin, blah, blah, blah. And so you can dig down and find it and run it, but it's not super convenient. So the newest version of CommandBox has just a top-level command called CFPM. Well, it's actually server CFPM, but it's aliased. And so if you're in the web root of an Adobe ColdFusion 2021 server in CommandBox, you can just type CFPM. CommandBox, who knows, I say who, it's not like it's a person, CommandBox, which knows where the server lives, will go and find that CFPM script for you and will run it. So it'll open up the shell right there. Or you can just type CFPM install feed or install debugger or whatever the packages you want to install. And we're kind of thinking through how to automate a little bit better the packages. I'd like to have some kind of convention and like your box.json or server.json or something where you can declare the dependencies that your code needs, so it can just be part of like the box install, or can be part of the server start. Not really sure how to do it. So for now, you're still going to manually install that stuff. The good thing is, the error messages in 2021 are pretty self-explanatory. So if you try to use a tag that isn't available because the package isn't installed, the error message will tell you this is what you need to install to do it. Not a big deal. Go run cfpm install blah, and you'll be up. In fact, you don't even need to restart ColdFusion, which is very nice. They're using OSGI behind the scenes like Lucee is, so those bundles can just be dynamically loaded on the fly. So you don't even need to restart the server. You can just install the packages. And then I mentioned ColdBox is not working. Even if you install the feed package so ColdBox compiles, there's 2, maybe 3, at least 2 different bug reports we've seen for both ColdBox and TestBox. Oh, I need to add the TestBox bug report link on this blog post. There's some things that looks like they worked in the public beta of 2020, but with the final release of 2021, there were some regressions. So the ColdBox, just like basic app template, won't even run. There's some scoping things that don't quite work right. So I'll try to keep this blog post updated with the known tickets that the Adobe engineers are working on, and hopefully the first updater of 2021 will actually work with ColdBox apps and with TestBox, but we'll keep you guys posted on that.
And we did test them. We were testing with the betas. We were a part of that program, and it was working, we swear, until it released.
Yeah, well, it didn't work in the alpha, but I reported the bugs, and they fixed it for like the next alpha, and then it was okay in the beta, and then the final came out, and so
yeah,
unfortunately, there's not much we could have done differently there.
Yep, that's the joy of a new release. But there is a lot of good stuff, and so yeah, that blog post release is good. Now I know that with the CFConfig, the CFConfig, their setup tool, they have a CF setup or whatever as well. They have very similar versions, and anyway, but if you're using CommandBox stuff already, CFConfig, etc., you just keep using it. But they do have some stuff that bridges the gap for those who don't. But I know that they have a scan your code and install if you need it option. And I wonder if we could tie into that, because they have an option where you just like scan it and then it'll give you back a list. But you can also just say scan and install. It'll scan, find the list and install automatically.
I think that's a cool parlor trick. I don't think it's necessarily something I would want to automate. I would prefer to be a bit more explicit.
Because it's not something you want to do every time for sure. But
sorry, I was looking. I wanted to try to see if I could. I wanted to see what the option was for it, because I had seen the option the other day, and I hadn't actually ran the tool to see how it worked, because it was in CFPM. Let's see if I can remember what it was called. If I run the help command, CFPM has its own little help command inside of it. Here we go. Scan. Here we go. Scans code at a given path and finds all packages to be installed. And it looks like it accepts a code-based path and a CF server URL. Why does it need a server URL? Huh.
I don't know.
There's also a scan and install. I need to play with them. I haven't tried either of them. I've played a bit with the packages, and there's JSON files behind the scenes that kind of define what the packages are. One of the things I was trying to figure out is, should there be some like preset options we could try to bake in that's like, this is a ColdBox app, install everything that you'll need, or install everything that ColdFusion 2018 had or something.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of stuff you wouldn't necessarily want to install. They have, all the Lambda stuff is its own package, and I love that. It's great, right? You only install it if you need it. But, and I'm still kind of torn. The whole, like, scan and install stuff is cool, maybe to, like, discover it. But I still like the idea of sort of explicitly listing those somewhere in one of your configuration files.
Well, what about your box.json? We have a box.json in your modules, and when you go to install the module, you could maybe flag that it needs to be installed, or. Well,
yeah, because you have a good point. Because if you have a simple website, right, and it's just your code, it's fairly straightforward. Because you could have something in like your server.json or whatever that lists the modules, and CommandBox could look for that, and it could automatically run CFPM for you. But what if you install some random third-party, ColdBox module off of ForgeBox or whatever, some third-party package from some dude on the internet, and that package requires something that you didn't know about? You don't want to have to be like a whack-a-mole game every time you grab a package. It'd be great for packages to be self-describing, like you said, where the box.json says, I require these things to run, some of which happen to be Adobe ColdFusion, packages, which,
We could have
I
the
gotta
Lucee
figure-
extensions too, because some of the Lucee extensions are required,
and you
right?
can do that. You can do that right now with Lucee. Though there are a few caveats. You can put Lucee extensions in your box.json as dependencies, and if you run box install in a working directory of a Lucee server, CommandBox will install those extensions into the Lucee server. There's some chicken and egg problems where if you run the install prior to starting the server, then CommandBox doesn't know about the server because it didn't exist yet. And I kind of have the same issues here as well. What if you haven't started the server yet and you're running the box install first? But I love the idea of packages being fully self-describing. That box.json contains all the metadata necessary for that code to be able to run, not you doing a bunch of manual stuff or having to scan your code base every time to see what, new functionalities have cropped up. But
Yeah, I think that's the way we should go. But like you say, the details of it are a little tricky yet, and we're getting there. But yeah, if you guys got feedback, let us know, and definitely keep reporting those bugs. I thought that test box one was pretty interesting with the name parameters that someone brought up the other day. Was it Brock?
Yeah, that was the other bug, is they were getting some parsing errors saying that they were mixing positional name parameters or something, even though they weren't. It's code that ran on 2018 and 2016, but it errored out on 2021. I sidetracked myself. It was Mark, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Bockenstead. I've never actually said his name out loud. But it was on the box team Slack. He had just put in this ticket for the test box bug he'd run into. And I think John Wish or somebody had said they had also seen the same error, but just kind of shrugged and moved on because they weren't on 2021 yet. I'm going to edit that blog post right now, live on the air. And I want to add in a link to this ticket as well, just so people can keep track of the known issues right now with box products.
Yep, sounds like a good thing. So we have talked a lot about it, but there's a lot more to be said about it in the Charlie's blog post. We got the link to your CommandBox one, as well as the official Adobe release blog post as well, and a lot of great content coming out with CF Summit too. Okay, so we'll move on so we don't speak for a whole hour just about that. We did already mention that CommandBox 5.2 was released, so we've been in basically for months working on the 5.2 release, and I think you said it was a month of RC testing, so a lot of improvements.
Yeah, about a month went by with the release candidate, and I got a lot of good feedback, so I'm glad I did the release candidate.
Yep, and I know we snuck in a few things, like you said, for the CFPM, etc., so a lot of good stuff in there. So we'll share that, the release notes in the show notes as well. Well,
I do want to point out, I mentioned it in the blog post. There are more than one security enhancement /fix /thing in CommandBox 5.2 that covers several of the different libraries that we use. And you will want to upgrade as soon as possible to 5.2 because there's a handful of things that are fixed. I don't like talking about security stuff. Well, I don't like giving details about security things. But there are several things in there that may expose you depending on how you're using it or how you have your server locked down. So there's a lot of library updates in there, Lucee and Undertow, and some changes to how we're configuring them. So I definitely recommend you update to 5.2 as soon as possible, even if you don't care about the new features, just for the security updates.
sounds good. Good word of warning.
And there should be some information coming out in the community soon, hopefully, cross your fingers, that will explain at least one of the security issues I'm talking about right now. I have some insider knowledge.
Brad's on the know. Okay.
I like to think I am anyway.
Okay, next up we had another big release. So FusionReactor 8.6.0 was released this week, fresh off the press. And this fully supports ColdFusion 2021 now. So it also adds some extra, so the Adobe Performance Monitor module. You'll see all the ColdFusion Matrix and FusionReactor now as well. And apparently, if you're a CFusion user, you can now use CFusion and FusionReactor on the same server. So
interesting. They must have conflicted.
yeah.
I haven't used CFusion in a very long time.
Yeah, I know it's got its popularity. Isn't that is an Australian brand? I forget where that one comes from.
CFusion? No, that's WebApper. They're based out of
WebApper?
Colorado.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, WebApper made CFusion as an internal tool for their consulting, and then they started selling it. I used to use it a ton back in the day. Say, I was using FusionReactor on the alphas and betas of ColdFusion 2021, and it didn't error. But it looks like they've actually just added some more specific support that digs in and gets some data out of it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, because the performance monitor is one of the big things that everyone loves about 2018 and now 2021. And so if FusionReactor can tie into that and actually pull that in and just build on top of what they're already doing, that's pretty neat.
That is cool. And like you have mentioned in the show notes, if you're using the CommandBox FusionReactor module, you don't need to update anything. Just restarting your server will probably pull the newest version if it hasn't already. So it's automatic if you're a CommandBox user.
Yep, so automatic. When they first uploaded it, we actually got an error because the S3 bundle wasn't completely uploaded and finished.
Yeah,
we got it.
I guess the default permissions changed on their public S3 bucket, and so the download for FusionReactor 8.6 wasn't accessible. And as soon as they pushed the release to ForgeBox, people started getting servers that were airing out because it couldn't download the FusionReactor. So it's instant, so instant. Every once in a while, you hit a snag, but
yeah, no, it was good though. I mean, it's nice that it updates that quickly, and most of the time it's seamless. Obviously, S3 security sometimes it happens, but they were Johnny on the spot fixed it before we had a chance.
Yeah, they had it fixed in like 20 minutes. I pinged a couple of guys, and it was taken care of right away. So good on the FusionReactor guys for getting that straightened out.
Yep, for sure. And then the Lucee Spreadsheet library 2.12.2 was released, which includes a couple of fixes for Adobe ColdFusion 2021. And you can still use it with 2016 plus, etc. So
yeah, 2021 moved a couple jars out of the class path. They probably became OSGI bundles now. Lucee 5 had the same sort of issue. And so the Lucee Spreadsheet library just assumes some of these Apache jars, I think, would be in the class path, and they're no longer there. So now it bundles them.
Yeah, and so obviously it is called the Lucee Spreadsheet library, but you can use it with Adobe.
Surprise, works on both.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat that they do that. It's good for those compatibility issues and whatnot. So okay, so we also had a reschedule. So we're supposed to have the Seattle CFUG deep dive Thinkific API session November the 11th last week, right after our podcast, and they rescheduled it into December. So they had something come up, and so that's now going to be Wednesday, December the 9th. Same time, 6 to 7:30 PST. Same link and everything, so we'll post that in the show notes for you, and then you guys can check that out as well. Okay. And then, in case you missed it, last week, Adam Tuttle built on top of the API series that they have going in the Online CF Meetup with Charlie Earhart. And they had the Using Taffy API Live Coding and Fireside Chat with Adam Tuttle. And so that now is posted. We'll share the meeting and the recording on the chat here for those watching live, and of course it'll be in the show notes as well. So definitely check that out. Check out another REST API framework and see how it's doing it. So a lot of good content, a lot of it taken over by CF Summit this week, but we'll talk about that as we get to conferences here in a minute. But next up, we have some CFCasts Content Updates. And we actually have a few updates about CFCasts as well as the content. So they've done a major
they actually pushed
update.
a new version of the website, didn't they?
Yeah, so they've got a few different features. So videos can now be filtered by language, because now we support English and Spanish videos, which is
the way that's worded, it sounds like you can filter out cussing or something. Do you have how much language are in your videos, Gavin?
Not very much, and it's definitely not American English. But also, the user's language preference is saved in their profile, so you don't have to keep changing it every time you come back to the site. And they've also added a level field to the series, so you can look to see what difficulty there is. And there's a few other features out there too, but those are the main three. So give us some feedback. Do you like those updates? Are we missing something? Is something can make the site better? Definitely let us know. But they also have another little ease or like a little teaser here. Before the month comes to an end, we have a surprise for you. They say the Zero to Hero workshop videos will be published this month, but they didn't say which Zero to Hero workshop video, so I'm not sure which ones
They didn't say which month.
Oh.
Come December, it'll still be this month.
Well, they posted on Twitter this in November, so I'm assuming.
Kind of like saying tomorrow's only a day away.
Yeah. So so they've got some Zero to Hero videos. The workshop's coming out, but I'm not sure if it's CommandBox or ColdBox, so you'll have to wait and see. But we had 2 more videos in the CFConfig series, which finally comes to an end. So Grant's done a great job with this CFConfig series. And the last 2 are service layers and then practical uses and wrap up. So
service layer. I thought you said server slayer. I'm like, yeah, what is this, like vampires or something? Server slayer.
So yeah, so those last 2 videos, I think he has 13 in the series now, so a lot of good content. And yeah, let us know if you want us to dive deeper into one of those topics. You know, Brad can talk for days on any one of those things. So. But it's
legend has it I'm still talking somewhere.
Yeah, but it was good to have Grant go through it. You know, obviously Brad built it, so he knows it inside and out. To have someone else give a fresh perspective is really neat. So thanks, Grant, for that. And he's already got this next series, you know, planned out. So we'll see what he has coming up soon.
And I think I'm supposed to be working on a What's New in CommandBox 5.2 series that'll eventually trickle its way into CFCast. So that's nothing more than I should do that at this point, but have a bunch of ideas in my head that I'll probably work on soon.
Very cool. Okay, let's get to conferences and training. So, as we mentioned, Adobe ColdFusion Summit 2020 was this week. So it was the 17th and 18th of November. It was online, it was free, and more information was available through cfsummit.adobeevents.com. So, according to the software they use vConfig, which is a virtual conference software, virtual conference experience software, and it looked pretty neat. You know, it was similar in some ways to what we use for Into the Box. They had, you know, a playroom so people could play games. They had a networking area, an exhibit area. You could share information. They had two basic, you know, I guess auditoriums to actually watch the presentations. So it was pretty neat. I liked the overall feel of it. You could go check out the sponsor booths, and Aldous had a sponsor booth. So we had, you know, Paulina and Gatto in there answering questions, and so it worked pretty well. And they had 3,036 total attendees during the week.
That's a lot.
So yeah.
Is that? I wonder if that's registration or actual people that showed up.
That's people that logged in, and you could actually see at any point who was in that, how many was in that room you're in, how many were in the actual conference, and how many total attended at one point or another.
We only have like 500 every year that comes out in person for Vegas. I want to see all 3,000 people live in Vegas, Gavin.
Well, I know they limit it too. Like in Vegas, they have a max of 500, and so that's usually for.
Bring them all.
I think we should get more, but yeah, definitely online made a difference. And one of the interesting things is that the times were all over the place. You know, they had. Well, there's 2 parts to that, but the first part is they had a lot of different times for different time zones. So they had like David Tattersall from FusionReactor doing one early morning Pacific times, which would be more European time friendly. They had a couple sessions that were more India time friendly. But that was one of the big complaints is on the conference software, it didn't allow for multiple time zones. So when you looked at it, everything was in Indian time zone, so IST. And so it was 13 and a half hours behind, in front of our Pacific time. So I was having to do some crazy math just to figure it out. The CF Summit website had the right agenda times and everything, and that worked better. But yeah, I mean, overall it went pretty well. They had a few technical difficulties, but all the recordings should be coming out next week. So a lot of good content that I saw, a lot that I didn't get a chance to see. So I'm looking forward to catching up on a lot more of that next week. So I know that there was a couple of good sessions that I did get to see. I saw Matthew Clemente's, which he had some technical difficulties and had to cut a little bit short, but his presentation on CommandBox task runners and stuff was really good. Brian Klass's presentations are always amazing, and Charlie's Hidden Gems was really good too. So Yeah, it was pretty neat. So a lot of good content, a lot of cool things that I didn't really know was in 2021. You know, the hidden gems do uncover a lot of things from Charlie's reading 700 pages of documentation.
There was quite a bit of stuff in 2021. Actually, I was going to talk about all the new features that we're gathering up for Lucee to implement, but I thought maybe you already grabbed my tweet on that.
No, actually, I missed that tweet, but yeah, go ahead and say. So.
I was just going to say, I created the first go at a Google Doc, which we do every time Adobe has a big release for Lucee, for all the compatibility enhancements to match the new 2021 features. And there really was quite a nice, solid list of just pure language enhancements. Because Lucee doesn't usually touch a lot of the larger enterprisey, cloudy, integration-y things. But all the language enhancements, new functions, new member methods, any new syntaxes, Lucee always jumps on those. And so I was pretty pleased just going through all of her docs and, building up a big list. And Misha's actually already jumped onto that, and some of the new array functions like pop and push and stuff like that are actually already on the Lucee 5.3.8 Bleeding Edge build, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I know a lot of people looking forward to like the spread operators and stuff like that. A lot of the JavaScript people want to see, similar functions, and I know I always have to like translate in my head. Okay, wait a minute, was that function a ColdFusion function or a JavaScript function, and how do I do it in this language?
Yeah, so. Eric and I were talking about it internally the other day because I was questioning if all of them made sense in ColdFusion. Some of them I think make a lot of sense. Other ones I'm like, well, I don't know. Because I was saying like the spread stuff just felt like we had reinvented argument collection, but Eric was saying, yeah, if you did more JavaScript code, you'd appreciate it though.
So. Yeah, for sure. But yep, so it was a good conference, a little different. Well, obviously, we're looking forward to it in person. It was really kind of sad not to be able to catch up with everybody in person like we usually do, but it was still a good event. So thanks to Adobe for putting it on, making it free, and yeah, a lot of good content. And even those who showed up for my panel on modernizing CFML, it went pretty well. We had a good little group there. So check that out if you want to hear me fluff on about why we should modernize ColdFusion. But yeah, so okay. Well, just because CF Summit's finished doesn't mean you can't take their training. They have the Adobe ColdFusion certification online now, and you don't have to take it around the conference. So we'll share the links for that, so you can find out more about it and register. And the introductory offer is still good. Last time I looked, so that's only $4.99 for that. So check that out. But don't worry, we still got more conferences coming at you. So we have a 3-week virtual free AWS conference. The reInvent conference, which is the premium AWS conference, starts November 30th and goes to December 18th. So it's virtual, 3 weeks of amazing content.
How much content are they doing every day?
A lot. But I mean, all I know is that they usually have like 60 to 70,000 people show up to their conferences, and I mean, it's nuts. So definitely check that out if you're looking at AWS. Dive in deep. They have a huge array of content there, so definitely check that out. And it's 3 weeks, so you got plenty of time to absorb it.
When we used to do the Ordis Developers Week, we would do a week of stuff, and we'd have like 4 or 5 sessions a day. We'd noticed that attendance would drop off quite a bit over the course of the week because, people just don't have time to sit and watch sessions, for more than like a few days in a row. But I guess if they're drawing from a pool of tens of thousands of people, then people will probably just pick and choose what they're interested in.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. I mean, it's definitely a big amount of stuff. I mean, they've got a lot of content. And I mean, just the tracks, if I can share my screen. Did I check my screen before I did this here?
I'm already looking at it now on my screen.
Oh, I got the wrong screen. Well, I better fix that. But yeah, they have a lot of good tracks, a lot of good content. I found it. There we go.
Agenda. I knew it. They have an agenda.
Yeah.
This year's will, quote, follow the sun, end quote.
Yep, so Alexa, AWS, analytics, application integration, artificial intelligence, blockchain. Okay. Oh, they got blockchain.
Their broadcast will repeat to serve multiple time zones. So basically, they're going to be playing a lot of the content over and over again, and you just pick the time zone that works for you. Must all be pre-recorded?
Yeah. kind of crazy. There's definitely plenty in there. But yeah, you can focus by industry, focus by topic, or role. They've got a lot of different content. Definitely should check it out.
Their agenda assumes everyone in the Americas is in Pacific Standard Time. I guess us flyover country and East Coast just doesn't exist.
Yeah, but a lot of good content, again, free, and this is not usually a free conference. It's usually a very expensive conference, and I think it's usually 5 days in person. So definitely worth checking out. I'm going to be looking at some of it. AWS, a lot of good content, and you have to dive deep to get to the bottom of it, because there's 200 services now. Last year they announced another 60 something services or something, so I don't know, it's ridiculous how many different things you can do with Amazon. Okay,
nice.
Well, so next up we have another conference, Into the Box Latam. So that will be coming at you here December 3rd and 4th, and if you can't read this, you can change English, so Google Translate will help you with that. Only $7 to subscribe, and that way you can get 2 days of content. And if we scroll down, I think we even see the Mr. Brad Wood. We have Luis Mahano, Abilio. We have Davis. We got a lot of Javier, Jorge, Paulina. So a lot of good content coming at you. Definitely recommend checking that out. I know a lot of people who are in our Spanish-speaking countries are great to have some content in their native tongue. So I know we're proud to present that. So 3rd and 4th, only $7. Definitely sign up, check that out. Okay, we have another thing, and this is kind of on a sneaky down low. It was hard to find this information, but we have another online training, this time by Pete Freitag. So he's doing his ColdFusion security training, and it's going to be December 10th and 11th. So he's got 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and those are in Eastern Standard Times. So 2 3-hour blocks, so 6 hours in total. But this is a great training. I've taken this one before. Everyone who takes this, one, is really impressed by Pete, and 2, usually leave the sessions extremely scared and want to go back and fix their servers as soon as they can. So he's got a lot of great products, and he'll probably show you Fixinator, FuseGuard, a few different things like that, and it's a great workshop. So I highly recommend doing this. And if you buy before December 1st, you can save $125 by the look of it. So only $475, which is a good deal. So definitely recommend that. And obviously here, video recordings, you can be purchased if you prefer to just do the on-demand training instead. So I really enjoyed this. Have you taken this one, Brad? I know we obviously seen Pete many conferences and many times.
I don't think I've sat down and taken it from start to end, but I think I've seen a lot of the content over the years from different sessions and clips of things that I've seen of him. But I mean, it's all really good. Yeah. I like how he shows a lot of examples, like, actual examples of ColdFusion code, and here's how you hack it, and then here's the fix, and now it's not hackable. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when
otherwise, you don't want to be just guessing, like, is my code secure? You want to be able to actually tell if your code has a problem, and then, make sure you fixed it. So I appreciate that angle.
Yeah, and when I took it, he had like a Docker image of like a bank, and you basically work through trying to secure the bank, and it was kind of neat. Like, you had a little story, and you had all the different scenarios, and it was kind of neat to see all those different, OWASP top 10 type, vulnerabilities. See what they actually are. Sometimes you read them and you're like, oh, okay, I know that's bad, but what is it actually doing, or how would you actually do it, and just to actually do it. And it was a pretty cool experience. I liked it. I learned a bit. It was kind of fun to reinforce a lot of the things we do. Like, oh yeah, we are doing that right. Good. Okay. So it was pretty neat. So yeah. So a lot of good content still coming your way before the end of the year. But let's get on to the next, because we've got lots of blogs, tweets, and videos of the week.
Better hurry up then.
Yeah, so first up, we already talked about the FusionReactor being released, but they have a nice blog post, so you can check out a little bit more about it. As we mentioned, it was released on the 18th of November. A lot of good things, and they did some work with Elasticache too. Yep, Elasticsearch. So that was pretty neat. So they
what was it they did? Because I asked them to do a couple things, and I'm curious if
they support the Jest Elasticsearch Java client and the official Elasticsearch Java REST client.
That's what I asked them for. So what that means is, I'm excited about that one. What that means is FusionReactor will track HTTP calls. It'll do it at a couple different levels. It'll track the actual like CF HTTP tag in ColdFusion, but just at a low level kind of JVM, it will track like the Apache HTTP library. So any Java code that uses that HTTP library will show up as like, if you look in the relations tab for one of your web requests, you'll see that HTTP call as a relation. But we use Elasticsearch in several of our apps, and our clients do, and it used a Jest HTTP library behind the scenes, which FusionReactor didn't track. So it was harder to get data on your Elasticsearch calls. And so that was a request I put in a while back for them, is can you guys support that? So huge thanks to them for adding that in, because now that means our CFML apps that are using that Elasticsearch SDK that funnels through that Java library, that Jest library, will now show up as proper relationships and sub-transactions. I'm super excited to hear that. I hadn't actually noticed that.
Yep, and that version has a few bug fixes, a lot of improvements, and all these new features too. So pretty cool. So find out more about it there. And then we also had the blog post from you about CommandBox 5.2 being released. So we've discussed that one a bit already. So we'll skip
read
over
it and
that
upgrade.
one.
That's what you need to know. Do it.
Yep. And then we also mentioned briefly your little blog post about new functions in ColdFusion 2021. And so you find out more about all these here. So there's a lot of information in here. So those are some of the new array methods you're talking about, etc. So yeah, a lot of different things in there. Definitely should check that out. And that was part of your CommandBox ForgeBox blog post. And so for those who haven't seen it, so it talks about ForgeBox, CFConfig, the changes in CFPM. So we kind of went over this, but it's a good outline here, and that's the new link you just added, right? Edited live on the show.
Yeah, that's the blog post. I just added that Adobe link to. You were correct.
Cool. So, okay. So we also had some other people talking. So Ben Adele had a few Angular posts this week, but we got a couple of ColdFusion ones here as well. Okay, so this one's kind of a fun one. So he added a couple of functions, differ and differ no case. He basically made them as built-in functions using extensions in Lucee. And so he talked about how compare does that weird thing where if it's the same, they return a 0 because there's no differences. And so it's a falsy value. And so if you do try and compare these two strings, are they the same? It gives you a false when you expect maybe a true if they're the same. So he basically made some functions and then used the Lucee extensions to add them as built-in functions. So he has one saying differ, and then basically returns a not. So basically this way it returns more of a what you expect. And then he also made a function for different no case. But what I really liked about this, obviously this is kind of a neat little thing, but he sort of talks about how to actually go about taking that file and then creating a Lucee extension. So he has a differ extension LEX. Basically he loaded it into the server, restarted the server, and now his functions are available globally in the CFML runtime. So it's pretty neat. I like being able to see that and show people how easy it is to basically make ColdFusion a little better. The Lucee extensions are pretty neat. So Brad, if somebody wants to build their own like this and they have their legs, now do we have to register that? Like, how does the Lucee extension work with ForgeBox? I know we can install them, like you said, through ForgeBox. So how does it work for your custom ones? What do you have to do?
So you would just need to publish it to ForgeBox like you would any other package. You can use the ForgeBox CLI for it. And you would set the type in the box.json to be, I think it's like Lucee-extensions or something, is the type. You can get the types off the ForgeBox site to confirm. And then when you do that, it'll automatically show up in anybody's Lucee administrator if they're on Lucee 5.3 or later. Because Lucee 5.3 automatically includes all of the packages of type Lucee extension on ForgeBox. As it adds ForgeBox as an extension provider. So anybody on Lucee 5.3 or up would be able to see your extension show up in the admin. They can click a button, they can install it. And they can also specify the ID of the extension in their box.json as an explicit dependency that CommandBox will install when you run box install. And if the Lucee server is already there, CommandBox will install it for you in the deploy folder. So I doubt that that Ben put his stuff on ForgeBox.
No, he didn't, and that's what I was like, just what's the missing piece there? So he showed how to do it, load into the server. But I mean, yeah,
there's a page in the CommandBox docs that basically like holds your hands through the few simple steps of publishing a Lucee extension. The page is right here. It's called Publishing Lucee Extensions to ForgeBox, and it's bloody simple. You just need to set up the type and then just publish it. It's like literally all you need to do. I have examples in here. There's a bunch of advanced properties that are all optional, but here, I'll add this to the show note just since we mentioned it.
Yeah.
And I expect Ben to read that and get his stuff put up on ForgeBox. It's crazy simple. And then anybody in the world can install your extension with just a single click.
Yep. And one of the things he was concerned about is, if someone sees that in your code and you're like, well, what's different? And they go to CF Docs and it's not there, and it's kind of an invisible built-in function. And so Zach said that an extension detail page in the admin should show which tags or functions the extension implements. A summary page of what functions are available via the extensions would be good too. Like maybe that could be a nice pull request for Lucee. I think that might be nice, and maybe there's a way. I mean, I know that Lucee has some self-documentation. Like, I wonder if there's a way to, almost have like a self-documentation of all your extensions. If there's some built-in way to like pull that out and make it available in the admin to see what's there or something.
See, Lucee had a thing in the admin that I thought documented all the tags. I'm trying to recall off the top of my head if it was something that was just on by default or if it was something you had to install. I'm looking in a Lucee admin right now to see if I can find it. Maybe that was an extension that provided the docs. I can't recall off the top of my head now, because I was curious if that did exist.
I know the built-in Lucee stuff generates like that, but yeah, I was wondering if there was a way in your extension to allow documentation.
I can't find. Maybe I'm imagining, or maybe it's something that got taken back out. I don't recall off the top of my head. I just remember Misha talking about it once, having somewhere where you could pull up docs for all the functions and tags in the Lucee administrator, and I was curious if that would include functions that came through an extension.
That would be neat if it did.
For the life of me, I can't find that, and maybe it was something that was removed or wasn't on by default. Zach may even remember off the top of his head.
Yep.
So yeah, that would be one way potentially you could look up a function and find out that it came from an extension.
Yeah, so maybe Zach, if you're listening, see if you remember. Otherwise, Brad, there's some homework for you. Add it to the pile.
Because I don't have anything else to do.
Exactly. I'm glad you can finally admit it. So next up, we had a ForgeBox release, 5.4. So ForgeBox has been updated. And one of the things I like about this is not only is it just a useful update for those using ForgeBox, but it kind of gives you a little insight into what we actually build inside of our app. So ForgeBox, we talked about ColdFusion, ColdBox 6, and so we're talking about why we updated, and and you can see here like our page rendering speeds have increased by 27% because we went for ColdBox 6 and the rendering updates. We're talking about using CB Security 2. So this is just kind of, for those looking for modern apps and everything, this sort of gives you a little bit of feedback and information into like how we build our apps. And so there's some features here for those who use ForgeBox, but also, it gives you a little taste of what we're actually using under the covers too. So there's quite a lot of cool features in here.
There's some really nice performance updates they pushed that I really like. They added some indexes. They tweaked some performance stuff just to do as little work as possible to get the listings out. So ForgeBox is snappier now after the latest update, and I really like that.
Yep, and you can see the new features, improvements, and bugs listed right on the blog post there. So kind of neat. Okay, we also had a blog post from Charlie, as we mentioned, about the many new and improved features in ColdFusion 2021. So you can see on the site, carehow.org. You can see this here, and he has updates as well, so he's going back and changing this here. So a lot of good information, as I mentioned. And he breaks it down, categorizes it, as you said, talks about which what pages to look at, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a really thorough blog post, as we can expect from Charlie. So
What's funny is Charlie apparently had written this blog post and then pushed it out, not knowing that ColdFusion 2020 was released, just putting it out as a general informational blog post. And then he turned around and saw that they had just released ColdFusion 2020 that day. So then he updated at the top as like, update, it's actually released now.
yeah, I think they released it early November 11th Eastern time. So I believe his post was right before that.
Maybe they were just sitting around and waiting for Charlie to finally make that post. They were like, oh, here it is. Charlie made the post, guys. Push the button.
Yep. So, and then there's also another little blog post from David Byers to do with Adobe 2021 as well. This one referring more to the Docker images. So talking about how they've updated and how he basically went and updated his code to clean up and use the 2021 versions instead of the 2018 he'd been using previously. And so this is pretty interesting. And I think some of this talks about the package that you need, etc. So these show some of those error messages you mentioned. So we walk through some of that. So even in the Docker, you can see how to install those right images, because they have some preferences for when you're using Docker to make sure all the right extensions are installed, etc. So a nice blog post there from David. And we of course have the official one from Adobe releasing the 2021 version. And so let's see what time and date that was actually released. It was November the 11th, so 11/11. But yeah, so talks these sort of the main points, talking about cloud, and they've got a lot of work with AWS and Azure, modularization, lightweight installer, NoSQL database support, SAML. That's a big thing for a lot of people, is the integration with SAML logins, the CF setup configuration tool. It was kind of funny in the keynote, though. Everyone was saying, oh, well, look, they finally copied what Brad did 4 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of the CFConfig kind of stuff is definitely stuff that if you're living in the CommandBox ecosystem, it's something you've been doing for a while.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, a lot of good content, a lot of it centered around Adobe 2021, but a lot of other good stuff out there too. So, okay, well, let's get into the Find a Job, because we actually had 5 new job posts this week. So we had a freelance ColdFusion Lucee developer position in Dolores County, Colorado. We had a full-time ColdFusion developer at Little's, Pennsylvania. We had a full-time ColdFusion developer position available in London. There's actually 2 there. It may be the same company. I'll need to check on that one. And then we had a full-time senior ColdFusion developer at the Tadalek Corporation of Rockv. So it might be just cut off there, but that's another US posting. So that's all from getcfmljobs.com. So right now they have let's see, quite a few good postings there. If you go back, they've got a new one today. I didn't even see it yet. ColdFusion developer immediate joiners only at Bengaluru, India. So that one's brand new. I didn't even get it on the list, so we'll have to update that. So yeah,
coming to you live, folks.
Yep, quite a few job posts recently, and I see it goes back a couple of months here, but a lot of good job opportunities. So definitely check out getcfmljobs.com. Order Solutions has still got their application available online, so if you'd like to throw your hat in the ring for a job at Ordis, we have a lot of cool projects and cool customers we work with, and a lot of smart people, except for us, right, Brad? But the U.S. time zone availability is a must, and the U.S. citizen or resident or work visa is a must too. A lot of our projects require that, so that is one of our requirements. But a lot of good information. You can find out some more of the requirements and some of the things you might be able to do. And like I said, it's a great experience working for Ordis. I've been working for them for over 5 years now, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And yeah, so it's definitely worth checking out if you're looking or possibly looking for a job. Apply and throw your hat in the ring. Okay, so next up we have our ForgeBox module of the week. And this one might look like something we did a couple weeks back, but it's a little different. So
don't be confused. It's different.
So yeah, this Amazon S3 Sdk Explorer. So I think we did this about a month ago. It's just a little tool to help you browse your S3 buckets. A little SDK to allow you to do that. But the last one was by Ortus, and that Ortus one is actually a little older. And so this one is something that George Murphy has been released, and he's been working on it. And there's been a couple other contributors as well. And so what he's done is he's actually given some big updates. You'll see Lucid has actually done some work here as well. But basically the goal with this one is to update it. So now it's running on ColdFusion 6. It has all new Bootstrap 4 UI bug fixes. And they're actually working on getting some new ContentBox updates as well. So you should be able to transport files with ContentBox and use ContentBox permissions to be able to, lock down folders and/or shared folders. So they're working on that. But so it's more of an updated version. So if you guys have looked at the Ortus version of the S3 Explorer, this one is working on it. And like I say, George and some of the Lucid guys are making some updates to it now. So if you want a fresher version, definitely check that one out. And that one's just S3 Sdk Explorer, available on ForgeBox. So I wanted to share that, and yeah, definitely check that one out. So next up, we had something for our VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week. And this one was submitted by Scott Steinbeck. Thanks, Scott, for letting us know about these. It's hard to keep up with all this stuff. But this one, it's got a big name. But it's the Tab 9 Autocomplete AI. So it has lots of languages. It mentions JavaScript, Python, TypeScript, PHP, HTML, Java, Rust, SQL, whatever. There's a lot of stuff in here. But basically, its job is to give you better code completions using AI. It works for all programming languages using the most advanced machine learning models to boost productivity and save time for developers. So the short of it is they basically just give you expert autocomplete. And so what it does is they actually tied it into GitHub, and they had it basically go and just like scan hundreds of thousands of repos and evaluate it and everything. And so basically it does all this high-tech stuff that I don't understand. But it tries to give you more predictive and better.
So when you start typing a bit of text, does it like look at all the lines in GitHub where the same language file had a line starting with the same text, and it guesses what you might want to end it with or something?
Yeah, it also indexes your entire project by reading your git ignore or other files and determines what files to index. And it works out of the box, it says right here. But yeah, and they say it's crazy fast, like less than 10 milliseconds on average to get the list of suggestions.
So what do we need to do to get CFML support in this?
Well, it says it works with any language, so I'm curious, what it would take to actually get up and running. But like the deep completion, like it says, it trained on over 2 million files from GitHub. But it's tries to be smart. Like if you say get user, it assumes that an object with set of methods was returned. But if you say get users, it assumes to be a list of users, So like there's just quite a bit under the cover. Obviously it's pretty in depth and detailed, but yeah, I'm kind of curious. I just saw this from Scott the other day and I haven't had time to try it yet, but it sounds pretty interesting.
It's a really cool idea. I hate the phrase AI.
Yeah.
I hate anything that's labeled artificial intelligence. Just because I don't think.
Yeah, it's not really artificial intelligence. It's just.
It's not sentient. It's not like it's thinking inside of your IDE. Like, ooh, what will I do today? But it's still a really amazing idea. I like this. This is.
It says it works for
super
all.
Interesting.
It doesn't require any configuration. It doesn't.
I kind of want to like have it index a few, like largish ColdFusion apps, and then like experiment with some stuff and see like what it pulls up.
Yeah, it says
like,
it doesn't
like if I type like
pass your
event
code.
dot get, will it like find all the places in the app I've done event dot get collection or something and suggest that kind of thing?
Well, see, it doesn't pass your code apparently, so it won't look for mismatched bracket, but it does index your code. So yeah, I'm curious like how it works. So Scott, you're in the chat. It says it will look at your code too. It already has it. So he's already answering as we're talking. So it
Well,
already supports ColdFusion.
it already has it. He typed after I asked about ColdFusion support.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's not parsing the code for syntactical correctness, if it's just looking for text patterns, when I type event.get, when I typically type collection or private collection after that, I could see how it could do some kind of smart matches, even if it didn't know whether or not it was valid CFML.
So cool. So people might be worried about leaking their source code. There's options for disabling or enabling cloud GPU options, and you can even have a self-hosted version if you want to be able to get some of the power for that. So sounds pretty dang cool. I'm kind of curious.
You may opt into tab 9 Deep Cloud.
Yep.
That just sounds evil, man. It's like Skynet. Deep Cloud is coming.
Yeah. So, but it looks pretty cool. So yeah, something to try out. Something
that could be really weird if you always typed password equals and you're like, yeah, go ahead. What do people usually type after this? I'm waiting. What? Password equals what? What do people type? Have to be a little careful about that.
Yeah, I wonder how it works. Like if it's done off of file extensions, or if it reads the VS Code file type to figure out what type of things. But pretty cool. So. That's really interesting. That's one I definitely want to play with. Although if it checks out my code, I may not want to see the completions. But yeah, so Scott says it tries to type ahead from other code in your file. So pretty cool. I know like VS Code already does some of that sometimes, but sometimes it's kind of off. Like I get some weird things popping up.
This is what I like about a super extensible IDE. Because this is the kind of thing like a company that makes an IDE would probably never think of or would never put effort into. But, random cool dudes on the internet that think of really cool ideas like this and have time to play with it, this is the kind of cool stuff you get built for an IDE. I like this.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to play with that one. I want to see what it does. Although, yeah, not sure if it'll freak out on my code. We'll see.
What would be really funny is if it would analyze the code and the Git history and categorize the suggestions based on which of your coworkers and what they were most likely to type. And be like, if this were Luis's code, he would probably type this next. But Gavin, no, he would type this next. that would be like the next level.
That's too funny. Okay, so up next we have our Patreon supporters. So we need to thank our Patreon supporters for making the show possible. An
ever-growing list.
Yep, 34 people now. It's pretty cool. Like I said, we're 58% funded from our Patreon supporters, and their individual, funds go into making this podcast. Once we meet that funding threshold, then it's going to go towards things like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, and all our other boxes, and making sure we get all the continuous development they need. And obviously ForgeBox and our package management, that's built on top of our open source support as well. So. A big deal. So we thank every one of you. Brad, you want to read the names?
I can read the names for a price.
Okay.
I can read them.
Decide it later.
Cost. Ben Nadell, Brett DeLine, Carl Von Stutton, Charlie Earhart, Dali, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lisnicki, Don Bellamy, Edgardo Cabezas, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Jan Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Erickson, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamry, Kai Koenig, Laxma Tiradardi, Mario Rodriguez, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Patrick Flynn, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinbeck, Scott Odin, Stephen Klotz, Synaptrix, and Yogesh Mathur. Thank you so much.
That was Sean Odin.
To all of you guys. Oh, what did I say?
You said Scott Odin.
Oh, I was thinking so hard about how cool Scott's name is to pronounce like that. Yes, Sean Odin. Sorry about that. That's what you get for having me read the list, man. Taking your life in your own hands.
I'm paying attention. And Patrick Flynn is our latest Patreon supporter, so I appreciate that, Patrick. That just came in the last day or two, didn't it?
Fighting the good fight. Came in yesterday.
Yep. So, yeah, we appreciate all of you. And, again, thanks to everybody, and thanks to Orders for making this podcast happen. And next week, it'll be a short week before we have our Thanksgiving break, but we'll see you on next Tuesday. Tuesday this time, not Thursday.
That is if your Thanksgiving hasn't been canceled.
Yeah. Well, thankfully we don't have to deal with family, right?
See, look at that. That's a glass is half full attitude right there. I love that.
Yep. Okay, well, thanks everybody. You have a good week. Hope you enjoyed CF Summit. Watch out for those videos being released soon. And we'll catch you all next week.
Peace out.
Have a good one. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.